Hey everyone, welcome back. So there's a piece of infrared footage that's been absolutely detonating across the internet. And I mean, exploding. We're talking about thermal imaging video shot right here in the US over Groom Lake in Nevada. Yeah, that Groom Lake Area 51 adjacent. Just the location alone gives you chills. I mean, that place has more conspiracy theories than there are stars in the sky. And anytime something shows up there, it's going to be interesting. The guy who posted it, some online creator, just a regular guy with a camera and a social media account, first dropped static photos on June 3rd, then followed up with moving footage a few days later. And in that footage, there it is, an aircraft with a silhouette so sci-fi, so completely unlike anything in the current US inventory, that it just glides across the frame like it owns the sky. Within hours, American military nerds were losing their minds, like Christmas morning level hype. The kind of excitement you usually only see when a new video game drops or when the Super Bowl is on. Even from across the Pacific, you could feel the heat. And I'm not just talking about the thermal signature. Then the military media jumped in. Outlets like War Room actually took the footage straight to the US Air Force and asked point blank, is this the F-47? The NGAD tech demonstrator and the Air Force's response. 4 words, no comment, no confirmation, no denial, which let's be real, is the Pentagon's universal tell when something's actually real. That's the playbook, plain and simple. You don't confirm, you don't deny. You just let the speculation run wild. That's exactly how the military handles, advanced weapons, rumors. It's standard operating procedure across the board, from the Army to the Navy to the Air Force. And anyone who's followed defense news for more than 5 minutes knows that's how it works. Now let's get into the weeds, because this is where it gets really interesting. First question, is this even a real manned aircraft or is it a giant RC drone? Because here's what jumps out immediately. If this is infrared, why is there almost no exhaust plume? You and I both know that a fighter jet's engine plume hits well over 1,000 degrees Celsius. We're talking about temperatures that can melt steel, basically a miniature sun coming out the back of the aircraft. That's the single brightest infrared source on any combat aircraft, the strongest thermal signature, and the hardest thing for stealth aircraft to hide. It's the reason that F-35 nearly got swatted by a Houthi IR missile a while back. And yeah, after action reports pinned that mostly on poor US electronic warfare prep and inadequate fire support. But the point stands, hot tails get you killed. That thermal bloom is the one thing even stealth can't fully mask, no matter how much fancy radar absorbent material you slap on the airframe. So why does this supposed F-47 testbed show almost zero thermal bloom? I've got 3 theories, and I want to walk through each one carefully. 1, it's a model, no engine, no plume. Just a big fancy toy that someone flew over the desert for kicks, but I don't buy that, because if it were just a toy, the Air Force would have laughed it off in 2 seconds. They would have come out and said, yeah, that's just a drone, nothing to see here, move along, but they didn't. No comment means they want you to wonder. They're feeding the mystery, not killing it. And that tells me there's something more going on. 2, it's the camera itself. Here's the nerdy part. Engine exhaust radiates strongly in the 3 to 5 micron midwave band. That's where the plume screams like a flare, even in dry thrust, even without afterburners. But the blogger reportedly used an 8 to 12 micron longwave camera, common civilian gear readily available on the commercial market. You can buy this stuff online. It's not classified or anything. In that band, the plume fades dramatically. You mostly just see airframe heating and nozzle glow. Heat soak from the metal itself, not the fire. So right now, personally, I think this is the most likely explanation. It fits the equipment he claimed to use, and it's a known limitation of long-wave IR sensors. 3, the aircraft has next-level infrared suppression. Pratt & Whitney's XA103 adaptive cycle engine, the one they've been pitching for their 6th gen program, already showed in promotional animation that the nozzle's buried deep inside the fuselage, with the airframe itself doing the shielding. Plus there's advanced aerodynamic thrust vectoring, which is still in research, basically flattening the exhaust into a parallelogram slot with a high aspect ratio, mixing in cool bypass air, and wrapping structure around it to dramatically cut the thermal signature. If they've actually pulled that off in hardware, then yeah, you could drop that thermal signature to almost nothing. That would be a genuine leap, the kind of breakthrough that would make the F-22 and F-35 look like vintage aircraft by comparison. Now look at the shape itself. My first glance, it screamed 3 old testbeds that any real American aviation geek would recognize instantly. I mean, if you're a true military aviation enthusiast, these names should ring a bell. First, the McDonnell Douglas X-36, built for NASA back in the 90s, tailless, high agility. 28% scale model first flew in May of 97. It was designed specifically to test whether you could ditch vertical tails, optimize the main wing, and still get better range, better maneuverability, and better survivability. No vertical tails at all, which was pretty radical for its time. That thing was tiny, 5.55 meters long with a pitot tube, wingspan just 3.18 meters, height under 1 meter, empty weight only 494 kilos, max takeoff 576 kilos. Powered by a Williams F-112 turbofan with a thrust-to-weight ratio of 0.56. Ceiling 6,200 meters, cruise speed 450 kilometers per h are tiny, but it proved a big concept. It showed that you could fly without tails and still have decent handling. Second, the DP-21, that's a concept with twin canards up front, designed way back in 1983 by a Northrop Grumman engineer. It was nicknamed the Christmas tree because of its shape. Seriously, it looked like something you'd decorate in December, all angular and faceted. It was a what-if for the ATF program, the Advanced Tactical Fighter program, the one that eventually gave us the F-22 Raptor. But DP-21 never even got built. The designer himself admitted that with 80s tech, anything past 10 degrees angle of attack was unflyable. The flight control computers just weren't there yet. Still, the blueprints show all the stealth hallmarks: flat fuselage, diamond plan form, edge alignment, faceted surfaces. Internal weapons bays, no tail intakes and nozzles shaped for low observability. Those designs theoretically would have given a real boost to stealth capability if they'd ever been built. Third, the YF-118G bird of prey. Boeing and McDonnell Douglas in the 90s, the program started in 1992, first flight in 1996, wrapped up in 1999, just one built, 39 flights total, and that was it. That thing looked like a double-bladed sword, intake on top. No tail at all. Using anhedral main wings to generate roll control, absolutely futuristic for its time, and it flew, which is more than you can say for a lot of concept designs that never leave the drawing board. So after all that, yes, this event has us military fans genuinely hyped. They want to believe they're looking at a 6th gen fighter. And I get it, it's exciting. It's the kind of thing that gets the defense community buzzing for weeks. But when you dig through the archives, every single feature on this mystery jet is a remix of those old test programs. It's like they raided the museum and bolted the best parts together. A little bit of X-36 here, a little bit of bird of prey there, maybe some DP-21 inspiration mixed in. Here's the kicker. It has canards, the thing that certain online experts mocked relentlessly when a certain other country's J-20 came out. Oh, canards ruin stealth? They're just compensating for weak engines? They can't do thrust vectoring, so they glue wings on the front. Now, the Americans are dusting off canards too. So where are those comments now? Crickets, absolute silence, of course. Those people probably aren't real military enthusiasts anyway. Because anyone who actually knows the X-36 and the other test programs I just mentioned wouldn't have been surprised by this at all. They'd know that canards have been in the US design conversation for decades. Look, canards don't kill stealth at 5th gen levels. The J-20 proved that in spades, the old knock was about gaps and edge scatter. And yeah, that was valid for early designs with sloppy joints. So those America Strong fans, the ones who always insist American tech is superior and dismiss anything foreign, weren't completely talking out of their backsides. There was some truth to the criticism back in the day, but when that aircraft did ground static displays at air shows, public, out in the open, with thousands of people walking around it, everyone could see the canard to inlet edges are seamless. The structure itself is optimized, and with radar absorbent coating on top, forward RCS radar cross-section is completely comparable to conventional layouts. In fact, lateral aspect is actually better. That's not opinion. That's basic geometry, and you can see it with your own eyes if you look at the photos. That said, canards do create a ceiling for ultimate stealth, which is why they were dropped entirely on the later J-36 and Northern 6th gen prototypes. They went tailless and canardless. So even the original operator agrees there's a limit to what canards can do for stealth. So why is the US going back to canards now after avoiding them for decades? I've talked about this before in earlier episodes, so some of you might remember simple back in the Cold War. Fly-by-wire and computational fluid dynamics weren't mature enough to tame canard instability. The computers just weren't fast enough to keep the plane from doing something stupid. So US designers stuck with conservative layouts for the F-15 and F-16, both products of that era. Then the Soviet Union collapsed. Wind tunnel tech stagnated because the funding dried up. And with a massive engine advantage, there was no urgent need to explore exotic aerodynamics. Why take risks when you're already winning? But canards give you massive high alpha lift and low speed maneuverability, and that matters when you're in a phone booth at 20,000 feet, turning and burning with an adversary. The J-20 proved you can dance right on the edge of controlled instability with them, thanks to excellent flight control software. Next-gen fighters still need agility. You can't just build a human-powered rocket, right? Speed matters, but so does turning. So you need wind tunnels. Not just any tunnels, transonic, supersonic, hypersonic, altitude, simulating tunnels with variable density air. The kind of facilities that cost billions to build and decades to perfect, and here's the uncomfortable part that nobody in the US mainstream media wants to say out loud. That country has those facilities, they've built them, they've upgraded them, and they're using them. Does the US? Let's be brutally honest. American wind tunnel capability has atrophied over the past 30 years. Talent gaps from retiring Cold War engineers, aging infrastructure that wasn't maintained, and a generation that grew up on digital sims instead of metal and rivets. Digital simulations help. They're great for initial design and for running thousands of variations, but rebuilding Cold War level physical test capacity from scratch, that takes years and billions of dollars. And that doesn't fit the American win now culture or the obsession with leap ahead superiority that demands every new platform be generationally dominant on day one. So pulling a dusty canard design out of storage, revalidating it with modern software, and bolting it onto a new airframe that's cheap, fast, and might even outperform the F-22 and F-35 in some flight regimes. Whether it can actually compete with the real 6th-gen birds coming out of that other country, well, they're already calling the B-21 a 6th-gen aircraft, which is marketing genius. But let's be real, it's a bomber. It's a bomber with some stealth features, but it's not a fighter. So if they want to call a 5.5 gen fighter 6th gen, who am I to argue it's their narrative and they're sticking to it? But as an American watching this unfold, I can't help but wonder if we're playing catch up in some areas while pretending we're still leading. Well, keep watching this one closely if more footage drops. Or if the Air Force suddenly changes its no comment tune, well, be right on it. That's it for today. See you next time.